Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's live stream. My name is Jacob Hansen. I'm the host of Thoughtful Faith, and joining me today is my friend, Austin Falter. Austin, how are you doing?
Good. How's it going?
Good. Hey, so just so everybody knows, I want to introduce Austin a little bit to everybody. If you guys enjoy my new intro that I have for the show, you got to thank my boy Austin here. He's the
If
one
you're
who
gagging less
that.
often in the first 10 seconds of watching his channel, I'm just
You're-
I just messing. That was a rough one though for me. It was the intro. That's why I stopped watching for a while.
Well, I love it. I've heard everyone has like complimented me on that, by the way.
Oh, cool.
So many people have been saying how much they enjoy that. So just so everyone knows, Austin is helping me out with production, with distribution. He's acting kind of as my creative director here at Thoughtful Faith. And so I'm super happy to have Austin helping me out with some of that. If you guys have noticed that more content has been coming out, better thumbnails, all that kind of good stuff, you can thank Austin for a lot of that. So Austin, you're the man.
Just glad I don't have to be on camera. Oh wait, there we go.
And he did graciously say that he would assist today with this live stream because we're going to have questions coming in and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. So well, Austin, I know that you first had some questions for me, and then as super chats come in, if you guys want your question to get answered, super chat is going to be the most sure way that your question will actually get in. If you do put it in through a super chat, and as long as it's not explicit or violating some YouTube thing, we'll ask it and deal with it. So if that sounds good, Austin, we will. I think we'll kind of get started.
Okay, well, before I get into my questions, Flip Johnson's been my favorite comment so much. I've been watching these, and he says, I can ask anything. I'd like to ask for an apology. Thanks in advance. So we start with that one.
Flip. So Flip is on the Porch Time channel, and just so everybody knows.
Oh, really?
So Porch Time. Are you familiar with Porch Time at all, Austin?
No.
So Porch Time is a group of Exmos that I call the coolest group of Exmos out there, because while either they don't believe or they have certain issues with the church, sometimes they are like genuine and they can point out all the insanity that goes on in the kind of John DeLynn camp. And so it's kind of fun it's really refreshing to know that like there are people that are ex-Mormons that are not insane.
Yeah. That's funny.
So I actually encourage my listeners, like, if you want to talk to good faith ex-Mormons, like, check out Porch Time. And they're also like super funny, a little, it's at least PG-13, let's put it that way. But
okay, got it.
They're pretty funny dudes. So Flip's part of that crew.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, it's been about a month since your debate. So the big debate with Trent Horn, and that's been awesome. You've had some crazy viral TikToks and Instagram that I haven't even told you about yet.
Oh, really?
That. Yeah.
Oh, just so everyone knows,
just
so everyone knows, Austin is our man who is running the ship on Instagram and TikTok for Thoughtful Faith. We're trying to get more traction over there. So if any of you guys,
we need you to go comment nice stuff on his page, because there's not enough of that over there. On YouTube, it's all nice. It's all your people, some Catholics in here too that are like, yeah, I love you too. And then over there, it's the war ground, man. It's pretty bad. But they're going viral for that reason. So with the debate though, I had a couple questions about that, because like that's when I try to explain to people like who you are. And especially as we're leading up to the debate, I'm stoked for the debate. And I'm trying to tell people, oh yeah, there's this guy and he debates people, and they're like, debate? Like what? Why would you, debate? So I kind of want to get it from you. Like, when most people roll their eyes at debates these days, or formal debates, like what do you hope that these accomplish? I'd love to know how you explain it to people. Like, what's the point of debating theology and stuff online?
So I guess the best way is just to tell my own personal story in relation to it. When I got off my mission, my brother had left the church, And he had gotten into the new atheist movement. It wasn't like, oh, Joseph Smith had seer stones. They never told me, and they like run off. That wasn't it. It was very much like, is there a God? And I think he really went to the heart of the matter, which was good. And I started to watch, I started kind of researching, because I'd hear these atheist arguments. And I was kind of like, well, what's the response? Right? Like, how do people respond to those? And nowadays there's a lot more kind of like short, quick, respondy kind of TikTok videos and YouTube videos. Back, this is like 2010, 2011. That hadn't really come out yet as much. And so, but there were these debates that were happening where William Lane Craig, for instance, had a really famous debate with Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris. And I was impressed by his performance. And I realized, wow, we have some pretty strong arguments. Now, granted, there are flaws in some of those arguments, I think, theologically, but they definitely showed, in my opinion, that there is a much stronger case for belief in God. And they ended up kind of, I began to watch a lot of those. I became kind of a fan of these theist versus atheist debates. And it was because you can all hear somebody make their argument, but until you watch like it get challenged and see if like it holds up under scrutiny, then how strong is the idea really? Like, you've never heard the other side given in its strongest form.
Yeah.
So,
well, and then you kind of think, like, as you're watching, I was watching the Stick of Joseph when they went on, the Paul brothers, when they went on John DeLynne's show.
Yeah.
And anytime that he would ask a question, it just gets me thinking, oh, how would I answer that?
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that feeling of being like, I'm feeling attacked right now. And it's like a really good chance to really think through in a way where it's like in Sunday school, it's easy to come up with an answer because everyone agrees with you around. But when you're in an antagonistic setting like that, really gets you thinking.
So. Yeah, absolutely. And that's more or less what the thing is everyone should know. A debate, I kind of define a debate as any public disagreement, because if you're having a disagreement with someone in public, there's an audience. Now, I'm never going to convince the person that's debating across from me. That's not the point of a debate. That's why you don't debate someone one-on-one. It's not a debate. That's just an argument. You're just like going to fight with someone. That's not what you do. But if there's an audience, the audience is watching. And if your beliefs are challenged and you just kind of like run away, it's like people are gonna be like, apparently your arguments aren't as strong as you thought. And also I realized, because I think we have good arguments and again, this is all in the world of apologetics. This is not devotional content. This is not what the church is normally doing. But there is a world of apologetics, and formal debate is sort of the heart and soul of apologetics, because you have to defend your ideas publicly. And I think we have a very strong apologetic, but we don't really use it. And so I'm kind of like, let's use it.
So after you do a debate, how do you really measure, like, was it successful for you? Because obviously you're not changing the person's mind, like you said. How do you measure that? Like, do you ever think I
can tell you right now, if you go and look at even on the Trent Horn debate, at the comment section, that's usually what you do. And I'm not looking for the people that are on my team. I'm looking for the people that are on his team and or who are neutral, right? So this is we were looking at an atheist kind of, a Catholic and a Latter-day Saint debate. And so the ones who really interested me were what the atheists said, because they don't have a horse in it against, the Mormon and the Catholic per se.
Yeah.
And so what I saw is a lot of them had said that it went really well for me. And then I saw a lot of Catholics who said, I don't agree with Jacob, but like he did well. Like that was because, and I can make that same thing. I can watch a debate and I can see the atheist debating a theist, and I can say the atheist won that debate, or the atheist just had a stronger argument. He did a good job. So generally it's the reaction from the audience that's going to determine, did what you said sort of move the ball in your direction. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
Cool. Hey, people in the chat are asking about super chats. We're not seeing the button here. I have never done that. So you can stick around while I look at some of these other ones. If we can't figure it out, I'm picking out some great ones from the chats already, but
if we can't get it, if it's not working, we'll just start picking them out of this, and you guys all get ask your questions for free.
Yeah, democracy or something. I don't know. You've got 2 that went to 45K views, one on TikTok and one on Instagram from the debate. And it was interesting to see which ones did, we're getting flack on which, because that's why things go viral, is when people get mad and leave their rage comments. So on TikTok, it was the fruits argument that people were just ready to go to town on, which is funny.
So I know that and we're going to get to the audience question, guys. Don't worry about it. And Austin, as I do this, if you want to look up and maybe try and figure out how to do super chats on some of these, but I'll kind of address that one as you do that for the audience. Okay. So, the people bring up the fruits argument. They don't understand what I was arguing. The fruits argument isn't to say that because the church is good and the outcomes from the Book of Mormon are good, that therefore means that the Book of Mormon is a historical work. That would be the stupidest argument ever. Like, of course, like, duh. What it was meant to address is this argument. There are those people out there who what they will say, yes, the Book of Mormon is inspired. It's inspired of the devil, right? So they admit that it's miraculous, but they admit that miraculous power, they say that miraculous power is demonic. In fact, that was what, what's his name? Matt Fradd said about the Book of Mormon. He said it's a demonic book and we should burn it. So by pointing out the good fruits of the book, that kind of neuters the demonic argument, because the devil isn't going to produce a book that is evil. Or I'm sorry, isn't going to produce a book that is producing like all these wonderful things. It'd be like, that would be weird. So that was more or less what it was meant to do. So
refresh the page, everybody, and see if super chats are working. If not, I'll keep going back to the drawing board, but maybe that did it.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we start getting into some of because there are a lot of people here. I know they want to get questions answered. That's kind of the big thing. And as we hope to get some of those super chats to come in, we can start going into some of these other ones here.
Okay, I got a few for you. I did lose the name on this one, but he was one of the first 10 people in the chat. And collective witness model questions. So in the collective witness model, how do you weigh the value of each type of witness? Is there a hierarchy, and what does that look like?
That is a lot of people ask that question, and my answer is it depends. You have to think of these different witnesses like different tools. Okay, so you have to understand. You're trying to understand the nature of reality. Well, if I want to understand, if this computer is in front of me right now, my empirical sense data is going to take precedence over the, what authorities tell me or something like that, right? So yes, not all the witnesses are equally weighted to certain things. It's sort of like 5 senses. Like if I want to taste a birthday cake, I'm not going to stick my hand in and start squishing it around and be like, what does this taste like? I'm using my hand to figure this out. That's not what it's meant for. And so, and another point of issue is, so I talk about within the collective witness model more broadly as sort of an epistemological model. I also have the collective witness model as it relates specifically to theology and ecclesiology. So this is like the matters of the church. So there's a question: what is the best sort of source for understanding what is official church doctrine? Right?
Sure.
That is established by authority, right? It's established by those, or I would say, obviously within the church, just because of the structure of the church, but even spiritually, that is something that would, if you are putting a higher precedent on your feelings over when they contradict the collective voice of God's prophets, I give more weight to the collective voice of God's prophets all through scripture, then I don't feel like I have to be faithful to my wife. Like my intuition tells me that I should run off with this other lady and and abandon my family. It's like,
Sure.
no, that's not how this works.
Sure.
So it looks
Yeah,
like
that makes sense. We
it looks
got
like
one. It says
superchats are working.
message retracted is what I'm seeing. Thanks for the super. I hope that's not a joke. Here we go. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it on my other stream.
Flip's got it. Here he is.
Selective witness model. Be honest, Jacob. Ooh,
Okay,
here
Flip.
we go. Here they're coming.
So he's going, hold on here. Selective. People act like, I honestly don't understand this critique. People are like, well, it's whatever you want it to be. No, that is literally the purpose of the model.
The opposite. Yeah, that's why it's nice.
It's because here's the thing. I genuinely asked this question. Every Latter-day Saint has to ask this. Am I just arbitrary in what I believe? Is it just, do I have any sort of a system for actually determining what would constitute doctrine or not? Or do I just, as Julie Hanks would say, I'm just a cafeteria Mormon, I just pick what I like and what I don't? That's a serious question. You have to ask yourself that. Because if it is just, you're just picking and choosing and there's no system behind what you pick and choose, it's arbitrary. You're just,
Sure.
It's just your own made up religion. It's nothing. And so I had to confront that personally. And this model was designed to say, okay, is there some way within, and this is, again, this is narrowing it into like the collective witness as it applies within the church, rather than sort of the broader epistemological 5 witnesses. This is, again,
Sure.
If I'm going to want to understand spiritual truth, what tools do I have at my disposal? Okay. And in my mind, the 2 biggest ones that come out, or I would say really 3, are authority, right? God calls prophets. Okay. And I believe that they're out there. They're messengers. They're authoritative messengers from God. I would say intuition is another one. And another one would be outcomes. I would say that there is something spiritually true about something that is working to produce order in the spiritual universe, let's say, something along those lines. And so, but when it comes to within the church itself and its doctrines, like, oh, I like Adam God theory, so like I believe that, or I believe what this prophet said, but not what that prophet said, and we all pick and choose, and it becomes, insane. And so my thing is to create a system in which I say, look, if you lined up every prophet in a row, you had them all in a room with you, and you asked the question, is Adam God? Brigham Young would be like, yeah. And everyone else would look at him like, wait, what? And so I feel confident saying, I don't know that one is one that I'm going to jump on. Right.
So here's the one question that I have never asked you about the collective witness that really, you probably get this one a lot too, is there's the teaching that's pretty prevalent in the church. You'll hear it at general conference, like almost every time, where they talk about how like the current prophet matters more than in the past prophet. And it makes sense when you're like, well, we need a living prophet, Mm-hmm. So there's that. But then at times when there's like maybe something that might seem contradictory, and you might have a collective witness where maybe the current prophet seems a little bit like, how do you deal with those moments? And I've got actually the quote from Spencer Kimball I wanted to share. He says, those who garnish sepulchres of the dead prophets begin now by stoning the living ones. They return to the pronouncements of the dead leaders and interpret them to be incompatible with present programs. So what's your response?
What he said there was programs. So this is an important thing. There's a difference between a principle and then the application of a principle. Okay. Truths don't change. They don't change. Otherwise, if I said that my wife's birthday was on, June 24th, and then tomorrow I said it was on May 15th, both of those things can't be true. I've made a truth claim. And either one was right and one was wrong. Like, you have to pick and choose. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, but that isn't, and so you have to make this is complicated, because you have truth that prophets proclaim, but then you have the implementation of principles within a given context. Okay. So applying a truth to a given situation. Okay. The current prophet, when it comes to applying the truth in our day, he's in charge. If he wants to alter the temple endowment, the process by which it's presented, I have no problem with that. That's totally within his prerogative. It's an application of principle. But if he were to proclaim a principle, such as if he were to say, we are redefining marriage to no longer be the union of a man and a woman, that's different, because now that's a truth claim, not an application of policy. Because there is a moral truth claim made by the church that it is immoral to engage in sexual acts outside of marriage. There's a truth claim that to enter the highest level of glory, you have to be married man and woman. And if you were to contradict that, I would not go with the living prophet. I would go with the collective witness. Because if I ever fully give myself to them by saying, look, whatever you say, I'll do, think about what that means. That means literally they can't say anything that you wouldn't do. You've essentially elevated them to the place of God. You have no check on what a fallible leader may say. And I'm not a believer in that. I believe that that men have the capacity to say things that are wrong, and they have. And so I will lean towards the collective witness of God's prophets on truth claims, but not on the application to modern situations, because those prophets were applying things to past such situations.
I like that. I've never heard you talk on that. That's cool. We got one from Stick of Joseph. When are you going to send us a manuscript? And a few people actually in the chat have asked about your book. Are you writing a book? Have you ever thought about writing a book?
So I have. It's in the idea phase still. Austin has been great because he's been helping me to think bigger about bigger projects. The current one I'm working on is a history of Joseph Smith.
Mini documentary series.
Kind of a mini documentary series. And it's going to be good. It's going to be like, we're going to tell the full story. We're going to tell it all. And it's going to be exciting. But as far as the book goes, I have thought about writing one on helping people kind of dealing with doubts. Not so much like hey, I'm going to write a book about like how to answer all the questions that the anti-Mormons throw at you, but more of the fundamental questions. And because I think once you kind of get what I call kind of the level 1 and level 2 kind of in place, the level 3 questions, they're still there, but they don't like it. You're just in a totally different place. So.
Sure. Okay. So who said this? I'm just seeing E says, hey, Jacob, I've been watching you for a couple weeks, and I liked how you call out false teachings with real clips from our leaders. And then E again says, also wondering what state you live in and if you served a mission, and where did you serve?
So I live in the great state of Nevada.
I did not know. I thought you were in Arizona, man.
No. I was in Arizona. So my kind of story is, I'll kind of give you the synopsis. So I grew up here in Reno, Nevada, actually in Sparks, Nevada, which is like a suburb of Reno. And anyway, people who know Sparks, it's kind of like my family's been in Sparks since 1927. I think we're coming up on 100 years. My great grandfather moved here from Ogden, Utah, where kind of my Danish ancestors kind of went and settled in Utah to work on the railroad. And then there have been multiple generations of our family here. That guy, his name was Oliver Hansen. He was a bishop when there was only a ward in Sparks. Anyway, long story there. I grew up here, went to a Catholic high school, went to a Catholic elementary school for a little while. I was homeschooled for a while. I was public school for a little while. I went to a born again evangelical school for a while. And that's where I got my first taste of kind of apologetics in the 7th grade.
Dang. Okay.
Which was actually, that was a really formative experience for me, because if you were going to say kind of where I got into all this, it all started in the 7th grade with that experience.
Wow.
I then did serve a mission. I served in Argentina, in Buenos Aires West. Just a wonderful experience. Also hard. I mean, I think a lot of people can relate that missions are a mix of the highest and the lowest. You get all ranges, and I had that full experience. Even considered coming home for a brief period, and I got sick, and I was just really having a rough time in that first transfer. But I had a great trainer and some good missionaries around me that kept me going. And anyway, ended up being marvelous. I loved it. Can't talk highly enough about my mission. Then I went to BYU Hawaii, where I love to surf. I learned to surf and I just kind of got addicted. And then went to Provo. I'd originally had a deferment to Provo, and then I went to Hawaii, and then I was like, no, I gotta go to Provo. Went to Provo for a semester, loved it, had a great time in Provo. But I had a buddy who was calling me back, and he's like, you gotta come back, man. There's nothing for you in Utah. And anyway, I ended up going back, met my wife there. We met at a bonfire at the beach, Hukilau Beach. So any guys who've been over there in Laie, if you're on Hukilau Beach, that's where me and my wife met. And then, graduated from there. We then moved to Arizona for 6 years, lived in Gilbert, in Agritopia, and also out in Santan Valley, for those guys who know those areas. Had a great time there, but we kind of got an itch to change things up, and we said, well, we're going to live near family one way or another. So we came up to Reno, and we ended up more or less settling here, and so that's where we are now. So we are in Reno, Nevada, and it's a wonderful place.
Cool. Thanks for that question and super chat. How much is the church paying you to do all this?
A
lot of money. A lot of money. Actually, I did want to ask you about that.
That is the funniest thing. When I hear them say that, it's funny when like, like Bill Reel or one of them was talking about it. My wife just burst out laughing. It was so funny.
Yeah, here you are building a shed in your backyard so that you can have a studio with your own hands. That's funny, man. I'm curious about that though. Like as channels grow, you do have AdSense on. What do you do with the money there?
So I actually, and on my website, I have to update it. When I started, I didn't really have any money, and every 6 months or so, I'm going to post kind of a public disclosure of exactly where the money has gone. So I will actually do that. I'm not taking anything personally for this. If I were ever to have a financial situation in which I were to need to do that because I was in a bad position and I wasn't going to be able to put out content, I might consider doing it. So I don't want to make a promise like I would never, ever take anything for it. I mean, these are donations and there are people that want me to do this. And so I'm okay with it, but I'm right now in a financial position that I don't need it. And so what I'm doing with the funds that people donate, such as the super chats tonight, I'm using them to buy equipment. I'm using them to pay for people's flights to come for in-person interviews, hotels, rental cars. I'm using it for, I also will help other content creators that I think are good, but maybe lack good lighting or a good microphone or something like that. So
there's a lot in the apologetic space like that. So
yes. and if I find someone that I think is really good, you know what I mean? Like I want them to be able to do it. So I'm more or less, that's something that I'm looking to do, is to take those funds and use them either for my own channel or to help empower other people that are in this space that are sort of allies in this world.
Sure. Well, I think part of what's cool about the community that's been built around faithful Latter-day Saint channels is a lot of these guys just are volunteers, unpaid, work and doing other stuff, and they bring their expertise in other stuff, and it's been cool. You got Jonah Barnes with his MBA just constantly coming in using his work tactics for the channel and for these missionary stuff, and it just builds a level of excitement, I think. Well.
And I've been very big on telling people, if you have a particular skill set or something, I'm all about it. In fact, I'm going to be reaching out to certain people that I know who I think can help run projects, because I actually want to start having other people sort of go out and research clips for a particular video. And then another person maybe writes the script because they're a great writer. Then another person who's an editor edits it. Then another person who is really good at presenting. You know what I mean? You have a smooth British accent or something, have them be the one on screen instead of me. This isn't the Jacob show. I want to create something where there's a group of people that through this channel are putting out content to really accomplish the channel mission, which I want to tell everyone what that mission is. It's very explicit. It's on my website. It is to build confidence in Latter-day Saints, in members of the church, primarily our audience, in the reality of God, the divinity of Jesus Christ, and the restoration of his gospel. But, and this is the key thing, by contrasting truth and falsehood. In church, we like to testify and talk about the truth. On this channel, what we do is we talk about the falsehood and we put them right next to each other so that you can see it more clearly and more specifically.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that's unique about your channel though is like you'll call people out. Like, I mean, like other ones we got Word Radio, they'll do their like debunkings and they're calling people out, right? That's a little different. Like you will like find their ideas and put it right next to a prophet, and then like these contrast videos. I think I've never seen anyone do it until I saw your channel. And I wanted to ask you a couple questions about that because that's pretty. I mean, it's pretty bold. And one of the things you have in your mission statement is hard on ideas, soft on people, right? And I don't get that at all. I'm like, I see the damage that they're doing. I hear their words. I'm like, I freaking hate these people. Like, get out of here, you know? Like, I had a conversation last week with someone super close to me who's just been in hell for the last like 8 months, 2 years, like because of the ideas that they're just grappling with constantly and the doubts that they have. And it's not from them. It's from their freaking Instagram feed or the comment section of Julie Hanks and stuff like that. And that just, like ruining this person's life. How do you do that? How do you stay soft on ideas, soft on people, even though you're looking at these ideas head on and contrasting them and seeing how dangerous they are?
So obviously I'm not perfect at it. No one is, but I do genuinely have that. I think I genuinely believe that there's that phrase that people don't have ideas, ideas have people. And that if a person had a different set of software that they had sort of downloaded, and I think we choose what softwares we download to a large extent. Yeah. It's almost like they have a virus, and a mind virus. And I want to help people through the gospel to sort of get that out. Now, I don't want to attack them personally, call them names. I think the Savior said, be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. Okay. I love that analogy. It's like, I don't want to hurt them, but I want to nuclear bomb their argument. I want to make their arguments so reprehensible in the eyes of the public that people are, that people have an aversion to them because they recognize that those ideas are as dangerous as they are. Ideas are incredibly powerful for good or for evil. And I think we need to, address that and hit it head on. And that's kind of what I'm about. And I think the best way to do that is truth. The truth, when you put the truth right next to a falsehood, like you see it. And I'm not afraid to do that. It's kind of like, I'm going to expose all the lies for what they are.
It's funny too, because it's always like a quote from like some sister in Relief Society presidency, and like just super calm in her like general conference voice, and it's just like a dunk. It's like they're not even like trying to, but because of the format, it's interesting. We got a big super chat.
Yeah,
$100 super chat from Porch Time. If I super chat, do you tithe on it? And does it make me tithe by proxy? That's a great question. Just shooting that out with content dues. I do that time to time for channels I frequent. Party on. I'm okay if you tithe, but if any goes to taxes, I object.
I object too. No, awesome. Any super chats that come in, don't worry, they don't get tithed. They're considered gifts. So I don't tithe on gifts. And yeah, although I have considered if I ever had like a bunch of, like if I ever got like a ton of donations and I was like, crap, like what do I do with all these? I probably would either redonate them to other causes that I like believe in, that I think are doing the same kind of thing, that are aligned with the mission, or I would just give it to the church. Like, all right, here, just like take it.
Yeah.
like give it to the missionary fund or something.
Well, there's so many coming out of the woodwork that just make amazing. Like we were talking about, Boylan, Robert Boylan.
Yeah.
Is that his name? Yeah. His like channel's starting to take off, and he's just freaking brilliant, but like hasn't had a ton of traction on YouTube.
And he had a really crappy mic until I bought him one.
Did you? Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying.
I bought his mic.
Buy his mic. Well, I miss his book background where it's just books lined up. But man, dude, that guy's awesome. But it's like, it's cool that we have someone so genius, and it's like, yeah, get this guy a mic, get this guy on the bed, get him debating people.
Yep.
I love it.
I agree.
Okay, I got a couple more. The Collab Society, sitting here with my dad. He wants to know why you hate his cousin Michelle Stone so much. JK, but in reality, tell us how you feel about her stuff.
So, first of all, Collab Society is our good friend Hayden. He's actually a contributor here on the show.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah.
So, Hayden. So, how do I feel about Michelle Stone? I love Michelle Stone. I look at her as my sister, who unfortunately has some really, honestly. So, a couple things with Michelle. I met her in person, and it's funny because I could tell she was kind of like afraid, like I don't know, like I was supposed to be. And I went up and was like, "Hi, Michelle. Like, how are you?" And
yeah.
A lot of people, when they meet me in person, they're kind of like, wait a minute, I thought you were like a monster. It's like, I'm actually known as like a really nice person. Even in my family who are like, aren't like, where all my siblings have left, like I get along with all my siblings pretty well. Like we have our little things now and then, siblings do. But, so it's funny, Michelle was a little taken back by that. And my feeling towards her is, again, she has some terrible ideas. I think Michelle has gone through a lot. I think personally, like I kind of want to like give Michelle a hug. Honestly, like, and there's a difference. And I, if I was involved in private ministry to Michelle, I wouldn't be doing any of the things that I'm doing.
Sure.
I'm not engaging in private ministry with Michelle. Okay. If I was her, minister assigned in her ward, like I'd go over, we'd talk about how our kids are doing. We wouldn't talk doctrine. Like we wouldn't fight over it. Like that's not your role as a minister. But she's stepping into the world of apologetics. She's making claims and arguments and truth claims that are false. And not only are they false, they're leading people down the path where you reject the church because suddenly temples aren't what we thought they were and keys aren't what we thought they were. And all of a sudden, and the first 3 presidents of the church are murderers and adulterers. And it's like, that's a totally different, and I've made videos on it. But personally, like I have nothing against her. I bet if we hung out, like we'd be friends. Sure. And it almost is like, it's hard for me because like, I don't want to do this, but if you are going to step into the apologetic realm, in the world of apologetics and public commentary, well, then I have to address it. Same with Julie Hanks. If I was in Julie's ward, like we'd probably be friends.
I don't know, man. I like Michelle.
Well, people don't know this. Behind the scenes, I've had conversations with John DeLynn recently via email and text. We actually were going to have lunch on October 1st before the event that we're doing in Utah. I was going to go have lunch with him. We were going to talk. Cool. And I've told him like more or less, I looked at what John DeLynn did with the Paul brothers, and I came away with a very different impression of John from that. And I wanted to talk to him about it, about his intentions, because I began to feel, and I still kind of do, that deep down, I actually think John loves the church. As weird as that sounds. I actually think John was deeply touched by the church, and he hasn't lost that. But he sees himself as a reformer who got kicked out. And so his intention has never been to destroy the church. It's been to change the church. Now, the problem is that the way he wants to change it would destroy the church. And he's totally wrong. And he has a lot of resentment and a lot of issues. But again, people think I hate all these people, and I hate gays, and I hate people that experience gender dysphoria. And I'm just filled with hate and rage. And it's like, you guys, nothing could be further from the truth. Like if you got to know me, if you actually sat down and broke bread with me, you disagree with me still. We still would like argue and fight over stuff. But
yeah,
as soon as there was a person who needed something, like I'd be there. Like I don't hold any animosity here. I think that's what Christ taught us to do. He taught us to not hate people, but he definitely taught us to hate ideas that destroy people's lives.
I think that's the part I struggle with, is when the ideas are so painful that they're hurting other people that I love. Man, I don't know, but I mean, some of these people are just heady, like Michelle Stunt, for example. I like that super chat because she really does seem like a very sweet, genuine person.
She is.
Why do you think members of the church this is Lisa Silversmith. Why do you think members of the church disagreed so much on the topic of vaccination, despite the fact that President Nelson was clear on that note? On that one, I can't read anything.
I really want to pull up and I don't know if I have it here. If you want to find it and pull it up, the statement from the first presidency. Okay, the amount of traction, on the vaccine, for instance.
Oh yeah.
People say the church was super clear. It was like, everyone needs to get vaccinated all the way down to your babies. And like, if you didn't, then you get excommunicated from the church. You have these radical kind of like leftists who are like, that's what the prophet said. And you all need to get vaccinated 30 times and like wear your masks in your car alone. Otherwise you're disobeying the prophet. Okay. That is not what happened at all. The prophets basically said, look, the vaccine, in our opinion, is safe and effective. And we think people should get it. We urge people to get vaccinated. That's basically all they said. Now,
sure,
fair enough. And just so everyone knows, and people may get mad at me for this, or some people are really hard about that. I looked at the data, and the best determination that I made at that time was that, according to the data that I had seen, you have two risks involved. You have the risk from COVID-19, and then you have the risk from the vaccine. Okay? For young, healthy individuals, I could not see that the risk of COVID-19 was comparable to the risk from the vaccine. I didn't see any significant risk of COVID-19 to a person who was under the age of 55 in good health. I just didn't see it in the data. Now, on the other hand, people don't know this. My older brother is an anesthesiologist. When they were short on doctors, right after when the pandemic hit its absolute peak, the area that had the highest levels of death were in and around New York City in the United States. My brother flew out to New Jersey to volunteer at a hospital there to treat COVID patients. Okay. He was there. And he said, we're losing people about a person a shift on my floor. Okay. So yeah. The other thing my brother told me is that they all fit a very specific pattern. Because I asked him, because at this point we still weren't sure. This was super early on, and everyone is trying to figure out, what is this thing? How bad is it? And my brother's there. And so I'm like, Dan, what is the profile of the people? Is it young people? And he goes, no. He said, they almost all fit the same pattern. And they had an acronym for it in the hospital. It was called HONDA. Hypertensive, obese, negligent about their health, meaning that they weren't people that were taking care of their diabetes. D was diabetic, and A was African-American. That was the demographic that they were seeing die from COVID over and over. Oh. That ain't me. That isn't my wife and kids. And the data very clearly showed that there were certain demographics that COVID did pose a risk to. A lady in my ward, for instance, she went to the brink of death. Okay. Literally had a near-death experience, coded, was out for 20 minutes. My brother was standing there with her husband as they were trying to resuscitate her, and she came back. Okay. She had, and I was there, the young men's leader for her kids. Okay. Now, she wasn't over 55, but she had lung problems and had had them for a long time. I wish she would have gotten the vaccine. Now, is there a risk from the vaccine? I think there probably is. And we didn't know what that risk was at the time. I think it actually was more significant than a lot of people realized. But in my mind, it was very simply this. I came to this conclusion. If you're over 55 or you have significant health issues, especially with breathing, lungs, diabetes, I think getting the vaccine is the right choice. It's probably a lower risk than the risk of COVID-19. On the other hand, if you're not, then don't. It's not this is a very highly unknown vaccine. We don't know what the total side effects are. It went through a very limited test phase. And frankly, COVID doesn't produce that big of an effect on your life. Everyone lost their freaking minds over it. And also want to address this, the mask stuff. I was actually pretty mad about the mask stuff in church later on, once it was kind of clear that the mask stuff wasn't helping. But people have to realize when, I think it was Elder Renlin, I think said it. Somebody said that wearing a mask is a sign of Christian love or something like that. Now,
there was an analogy given in one of the talks I went to, and it was like, I think they talked about looking up at the brass serpent.
Was this from in general conference from an apostle?
I think this was either a regional or it was a young adult broadcast thing. It was a young adult broadcast thing.
Was it an apostle or just a general authority?
I think it was an apostle. And
yeah, I don't know. Maybe they did.
But it was a look up at the serpent, and it wasn't saying. It was saying by small acts we can sometimes, and it was like, I wasn't based at the time, so I'm eating it up as if like, if I don't wear this mask, like I'm going to hell type of thing. I was like not thinking through this. I was just like, I don't know what to do about COVID.
And there got bigger worries about. And there may have been stupid things said. I don't deny that. But I do know one thing that was said, and it was said very early on about the mask thing. And they said that, look, it's like a sign of Christian love. This is before there's a vaccine. This is before we know a lot about this thing. And early on, I was all for masks because it was like, look, if we can't do anything, like if we don't have, once the vaccine was out, it was like, look, if you have a problem, get the vaccine. I'm not wearing a mask for the rest of my life.
Sure.
So like at some point we have to say we're done with the mask thing. And I think that they waited way too long on that. That was stupid. But early on, it was like, look, guys, we don't know what this is. Put on a mask. Like maybe it doesn't do that much good, but it's kind of like better than nothing. In my mind.
Yeah.
And so that was my take on it throughout the whole thing. Am I totally right in all this? I don't have a hard stance. And hindsight's always 20/20. A lot of this was we just didn't know exactly what was going on. And playing it safe. And I'll tell you, I always kind of laugh about this. If this thing was killing kids, if it was flipped where it wasn't taking old people, but it was taking like 5-year-olds, every one of these people would have been like, mask it up, close it down, don't do a thing. They would have, if the mortality was flipped, these people would not be saying any of this. Okay.
Yeah.
If it was their babies on the line, you better believe you would have seen every single one of these people singing a different tune. So I don't like people that have gone either way with it. And there's all the conspiracies with it. I think that the church might've said some stupid things, could have been more clear on some stuff. But and the people who acted like it was like they're like, you have to get vaccinated, you're like excommunicated or something. It's just like, it's just stupid. So anyway, there's a lot that can be said about that, but that's all
right, loaded super chat right there. All right, here we go. Your Read It Bomb says your top 5 evidences for the church's truth claims.
Ooh. Top 5. What would my top 5 be?
I like that one. I'm on hour like 22 of the LDS Truth Claim series. That thing is long, man. I thought it was a little shorter when I got in there, and this week I made some progress. Like, man, there's a lot in here.
There's just so much, and that was the thing that blew me away. It's like, holy cow! Like, I didn't realize there's just like a mountain of positive evidence. So my top 5 things for the church. Actually, it's funny, and I always put this at the top, the fruits. I do not think there's another institution and or group of people who more closely live to the ideal way to be as a human being than the Latter-day Saints. And I think it's demonstrable in the data. I think we are a wild outlier, and we never talk about it. Now, some people say, well, that doesn't mean that it's true. If I was trying to find spiritual truth, okay, you're right. It doesn't mean the historical claims are true, but what does it say about the spiritual claims? If I'm seeking God, how do you even do that? Like, what is the rubric that you use to decide if something on a spiritual level is spiritually true? If it's true in the sense that it lifts your soul to a higher plane of being or something like that. Well, let's just say that there was this group of people and they they just were happier, healthier, everything in their life, just all the problems went down, all the good things went up. They just were full of joy. They were great to be around. It was like spiritually, like that matters. And I want, like, please, if somebody knows of another group of people that are like on a higher plane of being because of their doctrine than the Latter-day Saints, like that would be a very strong case for me to like get out of this and go to them. And I just don't think it exists. So that's my number one. It's also why I'm a Christian. When I look at the world, what force in the world has done the most to uplift human beings to better states of existence? It's not Islam. It's not Hinduism. It's Christianity. Christianity built the West. And I'm a big believer that this is the greatest civilization that the world has ever known. And it's happened because of Christianity. And I look at Latter-day Saints as peak Christianity. And so I build off of that. It's not like, I don't think that Latter-day Saints are in a way like the only thing out there that works. I think that we've taken the thing that's worked the best and we have the form of it that is the best in its outcome. So that's number one. Number two, I'd say probably the Book of Mormon. Just because, again, because of the way it affects people. It's also incredibly profound, and I just do not think you can make the case that Joseph Smith wrote it. That just for me is, you can't deal with it. I would say our theology, probably number three. It's better than any other Christian theology.
I don't think about that one. I mean, I was raised just kind of member my whole life, and I really didn't think about that one much at all until I like served a mission, and you see what God is to other people, and it's like, oh wow, we have some pretty good solid theology there that just connects to anyone, and half the people who don't believe our theology because like they're in a different church or whatever, that like you tell them about it, you're like, oh, that's what I believe. They just intuitively do. So yeah, I like that one.
What other evidences? I would say this one's less to the church specifically and more to theism generally, is the design of the universe. I just do not think you can look at the universe and say that this is just by chance. I think the argument from design is the best argument for the existence of God. I think that is a really solid one. I also am a believer in the arguments for, and this would probably be number 5, the arguments for the resurrection of Jesus Christ. I think there is solid evidence that that there was an empty tomb. And that people will say, well, it was empty because, and you can look, there's a lot of great Christian apologists that make this argument. I think they make it very compelling. And I want people to know that when I sort of went after Trent Horn saying, look, well, you got like 3 witnesses of the resurrection. We got all these ones to the Book of Mormon. I'm not denigrating what they have.
Yeah.
I actually think that they make a very, if you want to have fun, go out and read like, I think Frank Turek has some good stuff on it, but watch the Christian apologists argue against atheists for the resurrection. And what you'll find is that there is actually a really interesting case for that person, Jesus, who really did live and really did die by crucifixion, that there was a problem with an empty tomb after that. And that the sources that we have back in that time frame kind of admit it. And so if you have an empty tomb, like that's interesting. That's worth considering. So all of those kind of things together, I think, because one of the things I don't like to do is say the evidence is for the church per se. That's built off of the more fundamental evidences for like the existence of God and the divinity of Jesus Christ. Because if those two things are real, I think it's not a very far jump to the church.
Okay. I like that. We got a bunch of super chats to catch up on, so I'll speed through a couple of these.
And I'll go quicker with the answers, but we do have to go quickly with this one. I'm going to read this one because I don't even want to toot your own horn. But our good friend Luke Hansen is saying that you're doing a great job. And I want to say, I've interviewed a lot of people, Austin, had a lot of people on the show. You're doing an excellent job. You need to spend more time on camera, dude.
Thank you. Appreciate you. I do spend a lot of time on camera for work and I hate it. So I actually, I mean, this is fun because I get to talk about crap I listen to all day and want to talk about, and the people I want to talk to. But thank you, appreciate that, Luke.
You're doing a great job. Should we go to the next one here?
Let's do it. E, trying to help out some people. What areas did you serve ARG? Is your wife a member? And does she share your sentiments on the Dr. Hanks of YouTube?
All right. So these two questions. Areas I served in. I served in Moron, Mariano Acosta, Ituzaingó, and my favorite place on my mission, the area I was in for almost 7 months, I was a branch president there, was 9 de Julio, which is out in the countryside. And just that was kind of my sacred place on my mission more than any other place, was that little town, and it was incredible. My wife is a member of the church. She's an active member. She her calling is activity days leader for the little girls. And yes, she does share my sentiments on Dr. Hanks.
That's awesome. So, I like it. Clayton, I wasn't expecting to see this one, but looks like I got an elder from my mission here, Clayton.
Nice.
Was not expecting to see brother redacted last name on the stream. We'll never forget you and Big Daddy Parker Clausen perform Christmas at Zone Conference.
Nice.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I like to sing, and actually, you know the song Hallelujah?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, heard there was that one. Mm-hmm. We found some Christian version of it that was just killer, and we got permission to sing in the, you know, the Zone Conference or whatever.
Where did you serve?
One of my favorite Christmas songs. So
that's a great one. Where did you serve?
I served in Rochester, New York, Palmyra area for about a year of my mission. Yeah, it was nuts. It was cool. And then Buffalo for the other year, pretty much. So those were kind of the two.
Freezing cold in the winter, I bet.
Freaking cold. Yeah, it was a walking area, and we were like in the ghetto, so we lived like 45 minutes out of our area. We had to bus in every day, and it was good work, man. It was good work. Cold work, but good work.
Nice.
So cool. If no one wants to talk to you, is that a bad fruit? Harambe boy. That's the best name we've had so far. Sorry, continue.
Is that a bad fruit? I mean, I don't know that necessarily. Maybe sort of. I mean, if no one wants to talk to you, that could be their issue, not yours. I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily a bad fruit. It could be a bad fruit. If you've done something that makes it worth it for them not to talk to you. But if they're just being a jerk and don't want to talk to you, it might be their problem, not yours. So kind of depends.
I'm curious on that though. Like, do you have people like in your ward or in your area who like see your YouTube who are like, is everybody pretty much like, oh, we get Jacob, or are there people who have like kind of, are there groups of people around you that kind of avoid?
It's funny. I haven't, like, in my local ward, the people who have watched it have generally been very complimentary and happy about it. So I mean, overall, I haven't had any hateful comments or anybody acting weird towards me. And frankly, when I'm in, that's the other thing is people get to know me online. You're watching me do apologetics. Yeah. You're not watching me do ministry. In my ward, like I'm not in there like throwing down, like having debates and stuff. Like I'm just like, hey, how's your son doing? Like, how's it going for him at school? Like, hey, oh, so-and-so needs this. Like, let's go take care of it. Like, I'm not, and just you guys know, like, I'm not like Mr. Perfect Member either. Like, I suck at doing my church callings just like a lot of people do. But I just recognize, like, this space that I'm in online, this isn't the work of the ministry in the church. This is the work of apologetics online.
I bet you there's a secret group that meets in the hallways during church and just, you know, no, I'm just messing. Hey, let's see. Hellfire Agency says, how are Chad and Lori Daybell not fruits of the Book of Mormon?
Because they're actually not doing what the Book of Mormon teaches you. So, when it comes to fruits, you have to ask something. is it because of or in spite of that thing? Did they do those things because of the actual doctrines of the Book of Mormon, or did they do those things in spite of it because they went and decided to go on their own route? What they're a fruit of, they're a fruit of apostasy and rejecting following the counsel of the collective witness of God's prophets. That's what they are. And that's what they're a fruit of. So yeah, they're a great example of what happens to people when you pervert the scriptures and go off and do your own thing like a psychopath. And not repent, come to the Lord with a broken heart and contrite spirit, and follow his authorized servants. Okay. That's what happens with those kind of people. And same goes for Christianity. People talk about the Crusades or whatever. They bring up all these things. I always ask them, did that happen because of Christianity? Or I say, I don't even like to say of Christianity. Did that happen because of the teachings of Jesus Christ? Or did it happen in spite of the teachings of Jesus Christ? And also, do you realize when you're criticizing the Christians for the Inquisition, for instance, do you realize that you're criticizing them for very Christian reasons? Like, the Romans didn't have a problem with just murdering people that didn't agree with them. Most societies didn't. The only reason that you think the Inquisition is bad is because of Christianity, because it was such a aberration from the Christian standard. And it was a hypocrisy. It was evil being done in the name of God. That's why it was so perverse. Take away Christianity. Go back to Rome. Go back to Greece. Go back to Mongolia. Go back to the Viking society. Go back to the Aztecs, the Mayans.
Yeah.
Why is it that we only criticize Christians? Well, because we hold them to a Christian standard. That's why you don't go after, and why aren't we all really mad about the Maya and the Aztec for their human sacrifice? Like, we should be outraged. We should look at people and be like, this is just terrible. But yet, for some reason, we hold Christians to a different standard. Why? Because implicitly we know that that standard is the standard that we should use. So you're actually complimenting Christianity by holding it to its own standard. It's absurd. And so that's why when it comes to the fruits, and you always have to ask, though, is it because of or in spite of? The good things that came out of Christianity came because of the teachings of Jesus Christ. And the bad things came out of it were the times that they went away from his teachings. So, long answer on that one.
You're good. This next one makes me happy. Boa Omega. I found you last month, and I now know that I have questions and faith. Came back to the church after 12 years, and I'm fully committed and active. Thank you very much.
That's why I do this. I get messages like this privately or in these chats and stuff. And if I can help people that way, like, I don't care about the haters. Like, give me 50 haters for one message like that, and I'm going to keep going. And believe me, the haters are out there. They are vicious. Like, I even, to a certain extent, like, I have really thick skin, and I've even gotten to the point where I'm like, holy crap, like, this gets nuts. Like, you start worrying about crazy people online. But to me, it's sort of like, bro, I went into the temple and I made a covenant with God to even give my very life to this. Like, I'm in. And if I can help people come closer to God and experience the blessings of the gospel, like, bring it on. So thank you, Boa. I appreciate those. Those comments really helped me.
Devin sent in one, no question, just money. Thanks, you,
Devin.
sir.
Oh, he did get one on the next one, I think.
Oh, do we? Oh, here we go. When can we have a book about the collective witness model?
If I did write that book on faith crisis, I definitely would include that as part of it. I do want people to know the model itself. I don't want people to make it out to be something it isn't. It's not like, here, learn this model and then you're going to understand, exactly how to find truth in every instance and scenario. That isn't it. It's more just a framework to kind of understand what's going on, and that you sort of like have more tools at your disposal. Also, I think in my collective witness series, there's one, the last one, I go into sort of the real deep roots of it, like where this leads. And it does get down to where you end up realizing that the root of all knowledge, so far as I can tell, is experience, direct experience, which was interesting on a philosophical level to kind of go down that rabbit hole. And I found out that there's a lot of philosophers in epistemology that actually got down to that. It's called epistemological foundationalism. And epistemological foundationalism essentially says that the root of knowledge is direct experience. And that's literally what the Book of Mormon teaches. So anyway, that's a giant, long philosophical rabbit hole that we could talk about. But if I did a book, I would definitely include the collective witness model as part of it.
I want cartoons of like different prophets raising their hands in the same room. I do want that. If we
I need to get the animator or whoever to volunteer.
Oh, there you go. We'll get some animations going. Do you know, this is Westmen Positivity. Do you know a way to go free of anti-white narrative that some LDS and anti-Mormons promote? I see anti-whiteism attacks anyone who is against white erasure.
All right. So
I'm not following actually. What's white erasure?
I don't know. I think it's sort of the just anti-whiteness, like people that are against white people. And there is racism against white people. I fully acknowledge that. Here's my whole thing when it comes to race. I care as much about your race and I care as much about your skin color as I care about your toenail length. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care about your hair color or any of that. I care about the content of your character. None of that stuff matters. And I do think that anyone who is making prejudgments on people, on individuals, based on their skin color or racial demographic or any of that stuff, like, I don't care if you're doing it against whites or blacks. The thing is I do believe that in modern society, the most common racism we have is the quote unquote anti-racism movement, which explicitly is sort of about discriminating against white people, which is just as bad as discriminating against black people. So it's just a real clear standard. All prejudice against people based on their race is just, it isn't even that it's just wrong. It just shows me you're stupid. Like,
it's unnecessary, right? Yeah.
It's a stupid criteria for judgment to pass judgment on individual people. Individuals are judged as individuals. Anyone who is judging people based on their group is stupid. Like, from an intellectual point of view, you don't do that. You make judgments on individuals based on the individuals themselves. Okay? To the greatest degree that you possibly can. All right? So that's just, yeah. So I don't really care about white erasure. I care about racism. And so whether that's white, black, green, I don't care. It's like whoever's being judged based on their race, it's wrong. Saying you have white privilege, what an incredibly racist thing to say. To assume that an individual, because of their race, is somehow more privileged than others when you don't know them individually, like, that's bullcrap. That is stupid and it's wrong. So I have no tolerance for it, and I will call out racism from whatever side it comes from. So I don't really care.
We got
about
one.
Erasure.
I like it. Zach says, what are your best arguments on Sola Scriptura? I've been saying that wrong. I thought it was Solo Scriptura forever. I'm hoping you could debate Ryan from GodNet. I hope you're having a great day. Hi from Calgary, Alberta.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate that. Sola Scriptura. Well, I think probably the best argument is that it isn't taught in the Bible. So the Bible itself refutes it. There are so many good arguments against that. But I also want to be careful that we don't go too far in rejecting what I call scriptural reliability. Sure. And even utilizing the collective voice of God's prophets as the basis of authoritative teaching. There's an element to Sola Scriptura that I actually think it's like they're moving in the right direction, but they go way too far, right? Because Sola Scriptura, sola is the real problem, not the Scriptura. Now, if you're going to say what is the ultimate theological authority, the ultimate authority for church doctrine, I'm going to say the collective voice of God's prophets. Okay. Well, where do we find the collective voice of God's prophets? We find them in the scriptures. So I am saying that scriptures are, I'm not saying that they're infallible. I'm not saying that it is
perfectly clear.
That they're perfectly clear. There's the problem is they add on a bunch of other stuff. And also I don't believe that all of the scriptures are in the canon that was created by the Protestant Reformation.
Sure.
Which isn't even the original canon that was canonized by the Catholic Church, which included more books. So I would say, I once heard somebody, it was actually a Catholic apologist who said this because they're against that doctrine. The problem with Sola Scriptura is that the Bible doesn't have an inspired table of contents. The Bible doesn't even say what the Bible is. So much confusion. The Bible isn't even one book, you guys. The Bible is a library. So the very first question you have to ask is, well, who decided what went in that library? And why do we assume that that's all there is? It's just, these are all just assumptions. There's nothing in the library that says that is the only thing. This is what the library contains, and there's nothing else that belongs in that library. And so that's probably my favorite, are the arguments from canonicity, because when you understand the way the canon was formed, you're like, Protestants, you didn't even make the canon. The Catholics did.
Well, your debate with Apology Studios was really good on this. I actually watched it for the first time like recently as I was feeding my secret AI tool that finds shorts. I was feeding it that debate, and we got some good shorts coming out soon from that one. So, Ellie Marie says, thoughts and prayers, lol, on Nemo the drum roll vigilante.
Here's the thing I don't like about Nemo, and they're just disingenuous. I made the video about it. Hayden and I worked together on it, and he's just a liar. He's not a faithful member of the church. The only reason he's staying in is to try and cause trouble. It's obvious. Like, go watch the video. He's like on camera basically saying like, you're going to have to kick me out. He wants to be excommunicated. He knows he makes a living doing this. Literally. Like, he quit his job. His wife now supports him while he does this to try and make money doing his YouTube thing. Can you imagine making a living complaining about your former religion that you don't believe in anymore? You're a weirdo if you do that. Okay. Like, I believe in this stuff. I believe it's a pathway to salvation. I believe it's the way to the good life. These are the answers that human beings seek on the deepest level. Like, and I don't want to do this for a living. In fact, I think it would be kind of wrong to do that in a certain way, depending on how it's done. But I mean, the guy doesn't believe in any of the fundamental truth claims of the church. Why does he want to be a part of this harmful institution? He doesn't believe it's what it claims to be. And if it's not what it claims to be, well, then he wants everyone to be honest that it's not what it claims to be. Well, then I don't care about it. All you seek to do is turn it into a big social club. Like, it isn't even a very good social club in a lot of ways. Like, if you just want to like have fun and be with people that you like there's a lot better places than this church. The church is a lot of it's about being with people you don't like and serving them anyway. It's that's why we have wards. It's like, yeah, you don't get to choose these people that you're around. You got to go serve whoever's there. You're called to serve wherever you stand. So anyway, I just haven't seen
the video Hayden did. Was it Hayden, right?
Yep.
Hayden did that this week, and that was killer. That was really well done.
Yeah, we just got to get some new lighting and equipment for Hayden. Don't worry, Hayden. We're doing that. It's on the agenda because some of his lighting was a little rough. Cardin called me and was like, he's like, dude, love the video, but here's the thing. Hayden looked like he was a terrorist in a cave. We need to fix that.
Funny, dude. That's freaking funny. I set up my light wrong again today, and I got him in my glass.
You're looking good, man.
All right. Dino Collins says, bro, I served in Morone 2.
Morone dos. Awesome, man. That's great. Now, those areas. Oh, Luke.
I'm sorry. Keep going. We got a ton of these, so I'm trying to pick up the pace.
Oh, shoot. There must be a bunch more. I thought we were getting lower on it. All right. So, yeah. Morone dos. Awesome place. And the ghetto suburbs of Buenos Aires. That's where I tell people that I served, and wonderful people in that place.
Luke Hansen, you should give us your best JP impression. I would like to hear this.
I'm not good at impressions. I don't even know if I want to try it.
Really?
I don't know. Should I try it?
Why the hell not?
I don't want to try it. I'll embarrass myself. Sorry, Luke. You got to pay more. You got to pay more than $2 to get that one.
What's the threshold? Someone will pay it.
I don't know. Maybe $100, but Luke, don't you dare do that, because I know you got a family to support, my friend. Let's go to the next one. Looks like Sebastian. Oh, he gave it all, but then he gave more. Let's go to his other one.
Cool. Any plans to interact with people outside of the Protestant, Catholic, atheist circles that we're used to anytime soon?
Who's got ideas? I mean, besides the Protestants, Catholics, and atheists, and kind of anti-Mormons
coming at you, right?
Yeah, bring them on. I'd love to talk to anybody. Buddhists, Muslims. I really would like to have a good conversation with a Muslim. One of the things I'm a little nervous though about with Islam, honestly, is like, if you go hard after Islam, like legit bad things can happen to you. Yeah. Like it's a little scary. And I don't see them as a major sort of threat. And I also believe that right now we need to try and create good relationships as much as we can with Islam. Yeah. Just because as we expand into some of those areas, we need to be careful about it. It's a very tricky business to try and have a positive set of relationships with the Islamic world in certain areas. I mean, obviously in the US, like if you're dealing with any Muslim who's listening to people who know Muslims, I mean, wonderful, wonderful people. One of my wife's good friends is Muslim. So I'm not going to put all Muslims in the same box at all. I think, and I would even say the vast majority of Muslims in the United States, for instance, are wonderful, great people. So there are just some radical groups that can be a little scary sometimes.
Yeah. Your video on that is I think clear enough though. Like it helps you think through the conclusions of the ideology without it doesn't seem sinister or mean or attacking or anything. And hey, if they're not coming for us, then we'll focus our attention on Protestants, Catholics, and all the rest.
Yeah, but I'm interested in getting more clarification on Islam.
That would be.
I have a level of understanding, but I think it would be fun to explore more deeply. I've read the Quran. I actually read it while I was building the studio that I'm in. I was literally had an audiobook in my ears. I was listening to the Quran the entire time, and by the time I finished it, I finished the Quran. And I was taking notes on it and stuff. So I have a lot. I actually have a video that I had planned on doing on the Quran, but I never got it. And also Muhammad. I studied the Hadith and kind of all the events around the life of Muhammad. And I had thought about another video series that I have. I want to do Joseph Smith. I want to do Brigham Young. And then another one I've thought about doing the life of Muhammad.
Really?
Yeah, for Latter-day
Saints. That'd be cool.
So
I growing up, so we had a large Muslim community in my area. And when I was in middle school, I wanted to like try out soccer. And so I joined a team, and it's me and like an entire neighborhood of super tight knit Muslim kids. And they're all amazing, like incredible soccer players. And I suck, and nobody wanted to be the goalie. So they're like, hey, make this kid the goalie. So I'm the goalie, and I'm like freaking out. I don't know. I got anxiety. I'm like doing it. And every time the ball goes in, it's like my fault type of thing. And then Ramadan started, and then they all sucked because they're fasting. They're like, we're out playing soccer and they're freaking fasting, and like half of them aren't even drinking. And it's like, you have mad respect for these guys because they're waking up in the morning, eating before the sun rises, or maybe they do it after the sun sets or whatever, but they're eating like once a day and then fasting the rest of the time and still like playing. It was like, wow, these guys, there's something to that commitment.
And I have a lot of respect for Islam. I do. There are aspects of it that I have some serious issues with. And then there are other aspects that I'm like, again, I have with all religions, I very much have that. I think there are great things that we should observe and pull from them.
Sure.
And then there are things that we should be very frank about, like, whoa, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. All right, next one. Taylor, Purser says, will you be having a convo debate with Michelle Stone soon? Will you be challenging her on the endowment and the temple. I know she challenged you to a debate at the last debate.
It's kind of up in the air a little bit. There's sort of I feel like there's I don't know. I have not agreed ever to debate Michelle. People thought that I had had set a date that we were going to have a debate. I said, after my debate with Trent Horn, let's talk and see kind of what we might come up with. I myself am sort of like, I sort of already had the debate to a certain degree. And it's sort of like, I don't know that I want to rehash it again. I have thought about having her. I did do this. I did offer her this. I said, look, I think it would be fun. I have a friend of mine who's who's actually a fundamentalist who believes like polygamy should still be around, right?
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Jacob Vidrine. Great guy. Obviously disagree with him on that immensely. Also disagree with Michelle. So I think it'd be really fun to have a conversation where I would look at Michelle and be like, I agree, this guy's wrong about
That'd be awesome.
Then they would, but then so I'd be with Michelle on that, but then I'd be with him saying, but Joseph did practice it. And so we'd have this. I think it would be a really cool conversation to have.
Yeah, who would team up against who the most often is what I'd be curious to see.
I don't know. I mean, and I'm
that's awesome.
So yeah, it would be an interesting conversation. And I did offer her that, and she didn't take me up on that, and it would just be kind of an open conversation. So I'm kind of debating what my next interaction with Michelle would be like.
It just seems interesting to have like formal debates continuously with certain theories, because like some of them seem like, okay, it was pretty well debunked, or like didn't go so well the last time the debate. So like what would change?
Yeah, I'm kind of,
it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm just not. What I would rather do is this on my channel. I would rather have a variety of debates that I've engaged in. And just so people know, debates are a lot of work. Of all the content I do, debates are by far the most work, because you have to learn and this is also why they're so good. I have learned more doing debates about the other side than ever. And the reason why, when you debate, if you want to debate someone, here's my advice to you. You get to know the absolute best arguments from the other side and get to know them in detail, every single one of them. Because the worst thing that can happen to you in a debate is that someone asks you something that you're not ready for. They bring up something that you just are like, oh, I'd never heard that before. Sure. And so what it does is it forces you to actually learn what the other side really says on their strongest terms. Because if you're not ready to deal with the strongest argument, you're going to lose. So I learned a ton about the attacks on the Book of Mormon. I have heard every argument you can imagine to debunk the Book of Mormon. Wow. I spent literally a full month where every spare minute I had, I was listening to anti-Mormon content from Catholics, from the John DeLynn crowd. Like I was writing down every single thing to make sure I could deal with it.
The more as you're doing that, building up to the debate, are you getting more confident that they're like, okay, I can handle these? Or are you getting less confident because that's all you're hearing for a month? Are you freaking out?
So, well, the reality is you don't approach a debate unless you already feel like you know the topic pretty well already.
Yeah.
Don't just go, well, I'm a Latter-day Saint. We got the truth, so I'm going to go to debate. Like, no. You have to know the subject in detail beforehand. And I felt like I knew that one pretty well. I've heard most of the stuff. There isn't a lot out there, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. And you're always trying to anticipate what they're going to do. And so I ended up, with Trent, man, I spent a ton of time listening to the anti-Mormon arguments. And then once I'm aware of those, then I prepare my rebuttals to deal with all of them. And it's like, okay, now I'm ready for anything he's going to throw at me. Now it's time for me to make my case. And then I'm looking at all the other stuff that I'm trying to put together. So, and that takes time. So for me to take a debate it isn't something I'm taking lightly. It takes a lot of work to prepare.
I don't know if I ever want to debate someone, because that just seems terrible. But I like the idea of the process, and that's why I like watching debates, because I'm doing the same thing. Like I hear the question and I'm writing down the question and then I'm like thinking about it. Like, how do I respond to that? If that, I think that's a really cool process that you have to go through.
And and I've become friends with essentially everyone that I've debated. I don't think anyone really am I on bad terms with. I feel like the debate in every case strengthened the relationship.
That's cool.
To where we respect one another. And I'm actually really good friends now with those guys from Apologia. Like Hayden and I are still like great friends with Oscar and Daniel. Like
cool. Dang.
We became buddies, and to be friends with like the guys at Apologia Studios, like for Latter-day Saints, like that's a new thing.
That's a tough one. Yeah, a little bit. That's cool. Andy Young says, have you seen bad apologetic arguments be harmful to the cause of Zion?
Absolutely. 100%. And there are many people that I wish would just shut up because they have bad ideas, bad scholarship, I try and be very careful about stuff that is more speculative and the stuff that's more solid. You only debate from a solid foundation. It's better to make no argument at all than to put out crazy sort of theories that you're saying are true. And yeah, there are a lot of people out there that get way too speculative without being very explicit that I'm fine with speculation as long as there's a big fat disclaimer that, hey, I'm just playing around here with possibilities rather than making bold truth claims that then get debunked.
Sure. We got about 30 minutes left in the stream, so leave your super chats. We're going to try to get to all of them before we end. Also, I know I do an analytics now. I know for a freaking fact there's only 47% of you that watch this channel who are subscribed. So please subscribe. That's not like it's 40. It should be like 70. 70 is healthy. Jacob doesn't ask enough. Subscribe to the channel for Jacob.
Oh, we got to fix that.
All right. We got to
you got to send me something that I can throw into the videos every time to remind people.
Yeah. No, we could do that.
Yeah.
Who do you think are the best apologists? Right. This is my question, but who do you think are not maybe apologists you might look up to? I'm curious about, but also who are the most effective?
So it kind of depends because if you're putting into a broad realm of people who do apologetics, not like direct sort of debate type people,
Sure.
I think that Blake Ostler has been a hero of mine for a long time because Blake was the one. So it's funny. I had this sort of atheist sort of had to deal with phase in my own sort of spiritual journey, as they say. And William Lane Craig, interestingly enough, I thought was just an amazing debater and brilliant Christian, deep thinker, good kind of argumentation style where he'd make syllogisms and other things like that. I was like, man, this guy's like, he is sharp. But I knew that his theology wasn't aligned with ours. And I was kind of like, do we have anyone who could deal with William Lane Craig? And then I read Blake Ostler. He did like a response to something that William Lane Craig did. And I was so blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy beat up William Lane Craig in this sort of, and did it brilliantly. Wow. And I realized, and I came up with this thing and I said, William Lane Craig makes Richard Dawkins cry, but Blake Ostler makes William Lane Craig cry. Yeah. And so I started reading Blake's stuff, but there are a bunch of others. Blake's one of my heroes though, for sure. Stephen Smoot is just awesome. Okay, yeah. I love Stephen Smoot. I love Robert Boylan, obviously, is the most brilliant scriptural mind in our church.
Crazy. He's crazy.
Truly, anything biblical, he's incredible, especially theological stuff. Other apologists, I actually think David Snell, the work that he does in relation to, I'm not going to say Saints Unscripted. I'm neutral on if they're an asset or a liability in the space.
Sure.
But Snell's faith and belief videos are the best out there, in my opinion.
Well, now I think he's realized that, and he's Keystone now.
Yep.
He's
So
separated into his own, and yeah, it's good. It's
Oh,
good. It's like the best. It's like they take all the best arguments and then they get the best editors, and it's just a really good pairing.
Yep. They do a brilliant
And I've
job.
been told I look kind of like him. So
there's
that. I'm his evil
twin. Than
twin.
David. You're better looking than him. That's no dig on David. You're both
no, I'm just messing.
So I was gonna say though, David is again, I don't know if it's even David himself personally. You know what I mean? He's just the presenter, and he's a great presenter.
He's great.
But I refer his stuff out all the time. When youth have questions, every time people go to the temple, I have someone who's going to the temple for the first time. I send him David's videos on like what the endowment is and what washings and anointings are. And it's like, it is really good stuff. And so I put him in there. Ward Radio, of course, they're different. And this is why I love Ward Radio. Ward Radio do a different kind of apologetics altogether.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they hate being called apologists, but you're in the space of defending the church. So like, sorry, we're all in this. But their thing that I love is humor. They make it funny. They make it fun. They laugh. They have very genuine conversations. And sometimes there are episodes where I'm a little like, oh, and I think even they're kind of like, sometimes they're like, oh, our episodes are cool. You know? It's a Wild West channel for sure, but that's sort of like, that's awesome. Like we have a channel where people kind of are just saying stuff and funny jokes are being made. And then there are absolutely brilliant and profound things. I think that variety of content is just awesome. It's like the Joe Rogan of Mormonism. You know what I mean?
That's how I explain it to people. Actually, yeah. When people were like, if Joe Rogan was a member, it'd probably be something like Word Radio. Like they're talking about conspiracy theories, and then they're just having like conversations that are just fascinating and arguing and yeah.
And also having some good apologetics in there as well.
Absolutely.
Depending on what it is.
Why
and just culturally,
why do you think why do you think they're so successful though? Because like they specifically, I think, reach more people as far as views go. And we've had conversations about analytics. Like they're actually doing the work. So as much as people criticize them, they're actually getting in front of people. People are hearing it, coming back to church. Like amazing things are happening. Why is that?
It's because they're having real, genuine conversations. Okay. I want to compare what they're doing with the young men. Like they need to hire Ward Radio to run the social media department for the young men in the church. Okay.
Yeah.
They never do it because they're like so stuffy and like, we can like, that'd be risky. It's like, yeah, I know. You don't think Brigham Young and Joseph Smith and those guys weren't taking risks, but you do what works. Yeah. And let me tell you something, having a bunch of dudes, I love these guys, I sustain them, but let me tell you what, you put a bunch of guys in suits and ties that are like 70 years old on a thing going, hey, let me tell you guys about the most recent development that we have in the young men's program called Leaders Are Us. And it allows leaders to talk to each other. It's like, dude, you're talking to young men. You guys should have like dirt bikes flying around and like the latest BYU Cougar highlights. And like, you guys, what is this? You guys know nothing about this. And the thing is I'm a big believer in stop with your theories and look at what works. What they're doing, you're exactly right. Ward Radio works. And you want to know why it works? Because they talk real. They talk on their channel how everyone else talks behind closed doors. Even all those people on Saints Unscripted who like, know they don't talk like that when they turn the cameras off. I have been in the Ward Radio studios many times. And let me tell you what, as soon as the camera goes off, it's the exact same group of dudes that are just yelling at each other and laughing and being crazy. And people know what authenticity looks like. Okay. And there's times to be formal. I get that. There's times to sort of have a solemn assembly, as it were, like that is understandable. It's good. It's part of the thing, but there also needs to be places to just have real talk. And they do that better than anyone else. And they're impressive. They have made a massive impact in this space. They've helped countless people. And they just did it because they were like, hey, we're just going to be faithful, but also be authentic and be just like real, like be ourselves. So I always say this to people. I'm a massive fan of Word Radio, big believer in it. I also fully recognize that they'll say things where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like you guys. But it's like, look, if you're striking out on one and then you hit 4 home runs, it's like, dude,
it's so fascinating to watch, because it really is like because you don't control it. That's why it works. But it is fascinating.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm not ever going to say that I do not endorse everything the Word Radio puts
No, I'm with
I don't
you.
endorse all their strategies, but
I
will
don't share it with certain people, you know.
Everyone needs to pay attention, because what they're doing is actually reaching people. You guys all are creating the church with all of its money, puts together a social media thing for the young men's. You know how much money's behind that if they want to? You know how much resources are at their availability? And yet they can't get anything going. And then you give Cardinellis and those boys, let them go and do something crazy. And all of a sudden, like, you got people coming back to church and people,
it's crazy.
Missions now opening because Jonah Barnes is crazy
that's
enough.
Exciting. I'm freaking on fire hearing those stories. That's cool.
Well, I'll tell you this. You go into that Ward Radio studio, and I'm with those guys, and I've said this multiple times. Dude, I feel like this must be what like the original small group of guys meeting in the church were feeling when it was like exciting and new, and we're going to win, and we're going to change the world, and we're going to do the things other people aren't doing. And it might bring condemnation on us, but dude, if we're spreading the word and building the kingdom, like, let's keep doing it. And it's going to be rough, and it's going to be bumpy, and it's going to be crazy, but it's like, that's awesome. That gets people excited. And there's an energy and an excitement, even though it's bumpy and a little out of the ordinary. You know what I mean? It's like, it's working in an age where a lot of stuff isn't working. So that's my Ward Radio plug. So Cardinal, pay me later for that.
Yeah, okay. All right, we got one. Storms of Life, Christ is There, says, I have started a channel. For now, I am doing a series on the Articles of Faith. Since you've had a channel for a while, what have you learned, and what would be good advice for me?
So it's funny. First of all, you got to know what your mission is. What are you trying to do with this channel? You have to be very clear. And it has to be something that not everyone else is already doing. If you're out here doing the exact same thing that 50,000 other people are doing, I'm going to go and just put out content online. Well, what about that content is going to be better than what's already out there? Like, I'm doing something that other people aren't doing. Like, not many people are going out and having formal debates online, but I'm also like, okay, those who are, like, can I do it with better production quality? Can I bring something unique to the table? Do I have views that are somewhat different? So you have to think about it in those terms of, what are you going to bring to the space that's unique and that people will respond to if you want to make an impact, right? Now, I admire anyone who's putting content out online. I think it's a great thing to do. Share your testimony. Even if your channel doesn't get big, you're doing something, and that's good. So don't think you have to have 1 million subscribers or whatever. Just focus on sharing something unique with the world, even if that's just your personal testimony and story. So.
And get it. Microphone matters a lot more than a camera. Is the only thing I would say.
Yes.
Good audio. Get good audio.
Yes. If you have to make a choice, microphone before camera, and production quality matters. And you can get set up. In fact, I ought to put it out there for people. Just kind of like, you can look up on YouTube. There's a lot of YouTube videos that show you how to set up for cheap. Watch those videos so you can get the specific mic to get, the specific camera to get, and lighting. And I would say, in the order that you need: microphone first, lighting second, and then third is your camera, in that order. And I would say,
you totally start with the phone. You totally start with the phone. If you have good lighting and a good microphone, you can be on a phone for a while before you really need to make that upgrade.
Oh yeah, for sure. The cameras on the phones now are incredible. So and lighting, learn how to do the lighting by watching YouTube videos that teach you how to set up a YouTube studio lighting. And there's tons of good things that show you how to do that. And it isn't that expensive. Like, my normal lighting setup that is under like $120, I think. is what a standard lighting setup is that I can get someone set up with. So
cool.
All right.
Okay. Zach says, thank you. You're awesome. Love your videos.
Thank you, Zach.
Ellie Marie says, my name is Elle, by the way. Oh, sorry. I messed it up again a second time. Please debate the cynical, rigid, rabid. Maybe I should see who we're talking about before I continue. Vacuous, ultra crepidin, Angie Smith. That chick is uber lost. I've never heard that name. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I know who Angie Smith is.
I apologize if that. I'm just kidding.
I get a lot of randos that are like, "Hey, debate me on this," and it's kind of like, I don't know you. I don't know anything about your arguments. I generally like to debate people that are public figures that are very actively sort of putting out a worldview, because I figure, okay, if you're going to put out this worldview, you should be willing to defend it. And like, if somebody wanted to debate me on like the collective witness model or something like that, like I'd be like, yeah, I'm pretty open to that. If there's someone who has some kind of stature and isn't just some rando. But I generally go to other people and say, look, we're kind of a similar size channel, or I have enough of a following, like maybe you'd want to debate me on this. But just like randos coming off the street, again, I did that in the beginning because I didn't have that many people, and I ended up regretting it. There were a couple debates that I did that I was kind of like, I didn't feel great about it, even if I won it, because the person just like wasn't, you don't want to debate someone that isn't on the level that it's a good debate. If you have someone who doesn't know anything and then they just want to like get in there and like yell, it's like, this is just awkward.
Or just ignore everything you say and say it was said 100 years in the wrong timeline. All right, let's see. Callan Williams says, more conversations with our Jewish friends. I'm all for that. That'd be cool.
I'm down.
That'd be really cool. L. Marie.
Oh, actually, one quick thing on that. If anyone's interested in getting on the show, or want someone to be on, the main thing is to have something interesting to talk about. Like some sort, like and Cardin taught me this actually, and it's a brilliant idea, is you actually start with the thumbnail. What is the catchy title of this episode going to be? Right? If you give me a catchy title, I'm much more likely to be like, okay, it's like, I got an episode. It's like, the real reason Jews love Mormons. It's like, hey, that's interesting. Like, and then we build a conversation off of that. So just be aware of that. So if you have someone who's Jewish and you have a really interesting title to an episode, send that to me. And that's your most likely way to actually get something to happen. Because I do get people that are like, hey, like, I want to talk about, the priesthood ban or something. It's like, oh, okay. I don't. It's like,
sure.
So anyway,
something that's cool. Yeah, there's totally submit it all on the website too. We're watching the website submissions.
Yep.
So El Marie says it corrects the spelling of ultra crepidarian.
I don't know.
Angie Smith,
know what that is.
Still don't know what that is. Still don't know who that is. That's okay. Thanks for the super chat. Hellfire Agency says, when are you debating Dives or Xmojo? We got a lot of these coming in.
So Xmojo, I don't know who that is. I know who Dives is. I know he made some random debate challenge, and I think he was like preparing for it and was like calling me out, and I was kind of like, bro, what do you like? Why don't you like email me or something, dude? Like, if you want to actually do this, like, he made literally like whole videos about me apparently. And like, he runs the Mormon News Review, which is kind of like, I do genuinely think, I don't know, maybe I won't say that, but Dives is let's just say he's an interesting character. And if he wants to actually do a formal debate, I mean, if we can come up with an interesting and compelling topic to debate, I might be open to that. But why don't you just email me and ask, and we can talk about it instead of making entire like episodes? Just weird. So
Harambe Boy are you in the cavalry?
No.
Still my favorite username. You know Harambe.
No, I'm not.
You're cultured on Harambe?
Yeah, I'm not in the cavalry, and I'm not in the military either. So I think you might got me confused with the Paul brothers.
You know the lore on Harambe. Are you cultured on Harambe?
Yeah, I know that it's the like everything. Isn't the lore that everything in the world like started going downhill when Harambe died?
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I'm glad we're.
I think I got it.
I wasn't sure how cultured you were on memes, internet memes here. Seth Stewart, are we going to discuss the ancestry of the ancient Egyptians and the sub-Saharan Africans? Not debate. We can sweeten the deal with curses if you want. You know, Seth?
So Seth and I had talked about doing this conversation at some point. Maybe Seth, I'm still trying to find out schedule wise. Maybe at some point we will. We want to get into the specifics of what exactly to talk about. My thing is I do not believe in any way, and maybe this would be a worthwhile conversation, Seth. I know I've kind of been putting it off. I just have other things going on. But if you guys want to hear the conversation, the basic idea is I do not think in any way you can connect Cain or Ham to sub-Saharan Africans.
Oh yeah.
You can't do it scripturally. I don't think sub-Saharan Africans are literally involved in any way in connection to the only sub-Saharan Africans anywhere in scripture mentioned are Ethiopians. And one of them was married to Moses from the Cushite woman. Yeah. So you got all sorts of like, if you're going to say that there's some sort of curse, there's all sorts of problems with that theory. Seth disagrees with me. And so we could discuss that. So I don't know, Seth, email me. That's the best way if you want to.
With a thumbnail, a good thumbnail. Might get us.
Yes, Seth. Anyone who wants to do an episode, I'm telling you, give me the catchy title. Give me the title or a few of them. Give me like 3 or 4 to choose from that are the ones that will actually get people to watch the video, because I don't like this. I wish I could just use whatever title I want, but in the attention economy, to get people to actually watch your content, you have to put out titles that actually get people to click on it. And you're competing with all these clickbaity titles. You got to do it too.
Apparently ours was not good because, well, actually we've had 200 people on the whole time. So they have stayed, but yeah, we gotta up our live stream titles apparently.
Yeah, up these numbers, the rookie numbers.
That's all right. Lord taught Boa Omega. The Lord taught the world and only reached age 33. Maybe octogenarian. You guys, I can't read words, man. That's why I watch YouTube. Octogenarian plus millionaires are not relatable to youth in public housing.
So I think that there's some truth to this. But I don't think that the brethren, that their job is to be able to relate to everyone. I think that the brethren's job is to guide the church and provide spiritual guidance as it relates to the doctrines that pertain to the kingdom, to help people to make and keep covenants with Christ. And I think they do a phenomenal job at that. I think when it comes I think we as members of the church fail because we are the ones who need to delegate to those that are actually effective.
Sure.
And I think that goes across the board. Find people that are good at things and have them do it. Stop trying to have people just do it just because they have some position. Like, get people that are actually good at stuff to do the stuff. And there are tons of people in the church who want to build the kingdom and who have talents. So find out where those are and utilize those talents to build the kingdom.
Well said. Colby. Oh, I lost it. Auto scroll. Here we go. Colby Reddish says, I'm a licensed attorney and you were offered to debate on. I'm a licensed attorney that you were offered to debate on the Book of Mormon. It's all about how you're just a clout shark. I think I read that right.
So Colby, I've heard all of a sudden people were like, you need to debate Colby Reddish. You need to debate Colby Reddish. And I was like, who's Colby Reddish? Like, I don't know, Colby. I've seen that you've been on a few Exmo channels as like a guest occasionally. I don't know what the specific topic you're wanting to debate on the Book of Mormon is. I
Ship has
actually
sailed, man.
the one that I've put out is I wanted to talk specifically with either Bill Reel, RFM, what is his name? John DeLynn, or anyone who's sort of in their sort of camp, like very like well-known YouTubers who publicly are out saying the Book of Mormon is an obvious fraud. Okay. That is a positive claim. That is not a, I just don't believe. Okay. When you say the Book of Mormon is an obvious fraud, I then say, okay, you're making that positive claim. I would like to do a debate for them to explain the naturalistic theory that is so obvious that explains where the Book of Mormon came from. That is the challenge that I put out to Bill Reel, RFM. I might have put out to a few others, but or like Cara Burrell or Nuance, or she's Nuance Ho, and then like Zelf on the Shelf. These people are big names who are out saying it's an obvious fraud. Okay, Colby, I'm sorry, you're just not. If you had more content out there that was like big, that was actually saying these things, I'd be like, yeah, I'll debate you. But you're not. And you can say that's because I'm a clout shark. But actually it's because I recognize that I don't just debate randos. I want to focus on the people that are actually the big people that are out saying these false and stupid things. Because if I can take down RFM in a debate and show that he doesn't have a good theory, I affect someone with a large audience. If I debunk a rando, nobody cares. So it isn't about clout shark. It's more about what actually is effective in my goal. Colby, you can go to my website. You can go and look. I have a specific goal. Debating a rando like you doesn't actually help me to achieve that goal. Debating RFM or John DeLynn or the people that are actually the big names out there saying the Book of Mormon is an obvious fraud, that would actually make a difference. So it's not about chasing clout. I don't make any money about it. I'm not like your people over there who literally make a living like Nemo doing this. Okay. I care about the cause, and the cause is to help to debunk falsehoods that are out there being propagated by big names. And so, sorry, you just don't meet the criteria.
There you have it. Colby Reddish. All right. Andy Young, thanks for all the super chats, says, get the Jewish convert and the Palestinian convert that MBR interviewed on
Mormon Book Reviews.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Cool. I should give me the title. Andy, reach out to me, go to the website. I have a thing where you can submit ideas for episodes and give me thumbnail titles. And if we have a good one, then I may just do that. I also have a lot of people lined up for interviews right now that I'm trying to like get through, including I have a big name that I'm doing an interview on in a couple weeks with Justin Brierley. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's a really well-known British broadcaster, and he has hosted Jordan Peterson on his show. He's hosted Christopher Hitchens, I believe, was on his show back in the day. William Lane Craig, like he's with all the called The Surprising Rebirth of a Belief in God. We're going to be talking about his book. I'm hoping to get Carl Trueman on, who wrote the book. He's another big one. I want to get Stephen Meyer on, hopefully, from the Discovery Institute, who does the book about the theory of evolution and kind of the evidence from intelligent design. So I have some bigger names that I'm trying to work into the schedule. And so sometimes I can't get to some of those other interviews that, even though they're good, I just have to prioritize things.
Oh, cool. Okay, we're capping the super chats. Unless we get that $100 Jordan Peterson impression one, go ahead. Otherwise, no more. We got 3 more we're gonna do here. Ryan English says, "What's the most shameless, irrelevant plug you've ever seen? And was it Read the Land of Broken Roads by Ryan English today? Available for free for a limited time. Top Google result, easy to find."
I think that may be the most shameless plug ever come through a super chat, but I'll plug it. I have no idea what it is, but Ryan, you gave me $10. So everybody, read The Land of Broken Roads by Ryan English today. Available for free for a limited time. Top Google result, easy to find. Hit Google, everybody. Read. It's called Land of Broken Roads by Ryan English.
They're gonna clip you. This is not. I hope it's good. I hope it's good. All right. D Carts says, what do you say people who claim your videos dealing with content from Julie Hanks or Michelle Sohn are simply hateful hit pieces?
Yeah, I hate their ideas. I hate their ideas, and I want to hit those ideas as hard as I possibly can to blow them into the next century and expose what is going on with those ideas, that they are harmful to people, they are contrary to the gospel of Jesus Christ, and everyone should be very, very aware of that so that the poison doesn't spread. So I have no problem hating and hitting bad ideas. I don't hate or hit Julie or Michelle. I'm very explicit about that. I have nothing against them personally. And I may even think that they know that they're doing things that they shouldn't do, but I do things that I shouldn't do. I'm not judging anyone. It's just, look, I'm going to point out when people are putting forth bad ideas and engaging in behavior, activism that I think is harmful to the church and to many people. So, if they stop putting out that content, then I would just be like, oh, okay. Like, I'll come to your house and bring you a casserole. Like, I don't have any issue with you.
I'm loving the comments about clout here. I'm laughing. But there was one, Jacob, you've challenged a ham sandwich to debate on Twitter, but that's Twitter. Okay, so I'll defend you.
I always have tried to screen people to a certain extent, but no, I will admit early on in the channel, yeah, I mean, I was like, look, if I get a chance to debate someone, there's not like John Dehlin isn't going to return my emails. You know what I mean? Like RFM doesn't know who I am. I knew where I fit. I only got to the point that I was able to debate people like Trent Horn because I was able to debate bigger people. You know what I mean? And so and again, it doesn't have anything to do with clout. Like for me personally, I really don't care. But if debating a bigger name helps the cause, well, yeah, of course I'm going to do it. Like, I don't want to, do I just want to debate any random person that comes up? Like, of course not. Like, I want to debate people that I think are worth debating. And I have found people that are more or less good. And it also depends on the topic. There may be a topic that I want to debate, and there's very few people willing to debate it. And so I might pick someone that doesn't have as well known. But this topic, specifically the one in the Book of Mormon, and it being an obvious fraud, that one is like, no, there are big names out there that are talking about this all the time, and they should be called to account. And it should be like, look, if you're going to say that, then you better put up or shut up. But they won't. And that's good. That's good for the cause. Like, good. I want for RFM, I'm going to hold this over their head. Like, you cowards, you guys just want to like say, oh, it's an obvious fraud, but you won't defend that idea. You won't actually try and defend the things that you say. You just want to hide behind your little world, live in your bubble, and throw stones without ever having someone critically examine you. So I've already gone up with one of the best Catholic apologists where I had to basically defend the Book of Mormon. Okay?
Sure.
So,
well, what's interesting too is like you just have to realize, like, if it really now, you know, when I debate someone like Trent Horn, it takes 2 months, 3 months of my life or whatever, right? Like, you couldn't do anything else. I couldn't even. I'm like, hey, I want to volunteer and like, you know, work with you, and you're like, after the Trent, we'll talk after, you know, like it consumed you, and so it just makes sense. Like, you have to be picky when it takes so much time.
Yep.
Okay, I think this is our last super chat. The last one. Let's hope it's a good one. The Quickie Man says, love you and your work. How about why every Mormon should be a voluntarist / anarchist? I'm unfamiliar with voluntarist.
That is a good title. I like that one. And I think it's the Kiwi Man.
The Kiwi Man. Okay.
Yeah. No, actually, that's a good title. I like that title. So
what's a voluntarist? If you can't tell,
it basically just means that everyone Anarchist is the more technical term, but it turns people off.
Okay.
It basically means that we shouldn't. The ideal society is one that doesn't have any force or coercion involved.
Okay. Teach
You're not being forced. The
principles and let them govern.
The government is the basic idea is that the government is bad inherently because it's a tool of violent force, which is true, by the way. And so having that conversation about that the vision of Zion is actually a society. Zion is a voluntarist society because the Lord doesn't work with violent force and coercion. And I think people who think that Zion is like going to be imposed by force, I think they're totally wrong. So that's that.
Cool. Well, this is funny because this is probably the longest we've talked. That's
true.
It's been good, man. I'm excited for you to come in next week. So it'll be good to see you.
Yeah, it will be a blast. Well, thank you, Austin, for doing this with me tonight. We're gonna have to do these more often. This has actually been really fun. I think the audience liked it, and it's cool to get to interact with the people more. I know people have questions for me, and so getting the chance to jump in here and do this is fun.
That was fun.
So
cool. Subscribe, guys. There's 53% of you not subscribed.
Yep. Get everyone to subscribe. If you watch the channel, you need to subscribe. And you and I, Austin, we can work on something to remind people every time they're on the show. But any other thoughts you have before we roll?
No, I actually got a lot of my questions out tonight. That was fun.
Good. Well, we'll do it again. You think of more questions for me, and then it will be the Austin and audience ask questions. And everyone, we just have to give a big, huge round of applause here. Drop a W in the chat if you're proud of Austin for the great work he did here tonight. I'm super happy to have Austin with me on the channel. He's been a massive help. And for those of you who want to volunteer with the channel, I know some people have submitted forms and things. I'm trying to get to some of those. It does really have to do with certain people bring certain skill sets. There's actually quite a few people that volunteer. And so what I do is when I have a project, I'll look at the volunteer pool and see who might have skills related to that project. So even if you just submit it and I don't get back to you, don't think that you've wasted your time. I may at some point reach out to you. I may not. You may not have the skill sets we need. But frankly, I've been overwhelmed at the support that people have given and really just appreciate you all. And more than anything, I appreciate when I see, people share their stories about the way that they've been positively impacted by things that we've done on the channel. I don't want this to be about me. I'm not a clout shark. I am somebody who cares about building the kingdom of God. And frankly, I want to get more people involved in it. That's part of my ongoing project with this, so that it isn't just the Jacob Hansen show. It is truly a group of thoughtful saints who are going out and helping to contrast truth and falsehood in the world. And anyway, I'm hoping that we can keep this ball rolling with Austin around. It's been a huge help. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See y'all later.